pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to summer.
1 month.
Yeah.
Enjoy them all.
With that, I'll call to order the Jefferson County Local Development Corporation July meeting. I will extend privilege to the floor. Anyone? We all received minutes from our last meeting. Is there any additions or corrections?
No. Make a motion to accept as presented.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Treasurer's report.
Page 5 of your packets. So this one's easy, on target to break even on both the revenue side and on the expense side. It could be slightly under. Some of the programs don't utilize all the funds allocated. Not very likely, but it did happen last year, some small amounts left over. Page 6, 7, and 8 are just blow-ups of the three main programs that are highlighted within page 5. Again, more or less on target to break even, subject to how they spend the funds allocated. Page 9 of your packet, the balance sheet. Total current assets are about $15,000 less than prior month. Our cash is down $40,000 from prior month, and receivables are up 20. We're $431,000 less than the start of the year in that category. Our total assets are $16,000 lower than the prior period. Total liabilities are just under $30,000 less than prior period, and the total liabilities and capital are about $16,000 less than prior period. The page 10 of your packet, these just come to us a snapshot of some of the loan commitments that are out there, and the balance has actually gone up $26,000 from the prior period. I think I asked last time, Lyle, excuse me. I saw Jay name out there, and I immediately said Jay. I think you said this is just a timing thing where the balance is.
Yeah, we've
kind of changes because of some of the categories.
Yeah, well, we've added some additional billing in that safety training category, so that will fluctuate. That's one of the pass-through items. We've had no new loans, however.
And as far as pages 11 through 14, basically the check through payables, there's nothing abnormal there. Page 15, 16, again, nothing abnormal with the amounts spent or the places that the money is spent at. So with that, I would make a motion to accept that report as presented.
Second.
Questions?
Sorry, who made the motion? Joy didn't get that.
The second, I mean.
Oh, John
John.
second.
Okay,
No, okay.
thank you.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Brad?
Yeah, thanks. So we had a loan review, the loan review committee meeting. There's just one item on there. It was really just some housekeeping. It's with regard to a timing of a grant that was issued on a loan commitment. So we should have received our payback, and the grant is taking a little longer to be received. And essentially, we agreed to allow some additional time, I think through December 1, 7-month extension.
7 months extension is correct.
To allow the balloon payment to essentially be made on receipt of the grant. It would be paid earlier if the grant were received earlier. I think that
It's anticipated to
summarizes
be.
everything.
Yeah, that's correct. And the balance would be termed out
Yeah.
according to the original conditions.
We asked a few questions. The applicant, North Branch Farms, is on time, as Lyle said, sometimes ahead of payments, so very low risk, easy housekeeping thing. It's just a matter of monies from New York State haven't been received in the time that they had thought.
And I believe Jay has some pictures of the.
Yes, I have pictures whenever you'd like me to present those.
we might as well look at them now if you're, we got this project.
Sure.
Speaking,
Marshall,
yeah.
can you? I put them together in a little presentation up on the screen.
Which one are you, Jay?
I think it's there at the top. Yeah, North Branch Packing. Go ahead. Okay, it's North Branch Farms. That's the name of Jay Canzonier's facility. I just wanted to call your attention that this sign is very prominently located in the packing house to signify that it was a project benefited by our services. Next slide. That's actually a picture of the farm stand at North Branch Farms, just to give you an idea. We'll go to the next slide. This is a picture of the packing house. It's a 30 by 50 foot structure. On this end is office and restrooms for the public. Next slide, please. That's the front entrance. It doesn't look like much when you're driving by other than the red barn. Once you get inside, it's a little messy. This was taken just 2 weeks ago. He hasn't started using it. Obviously, there's not any produce available yet. That is one of his packing lines. You can see where our sign is displayed in the room. Next slide. This is looking toward, whoop, hello there, Lisa. That is looking towards the two coolers. The building is heated from the floor. The coolers there are capable of holding 800 bushels of apples. Just to give you a little perspective, because they look small in this picture, but it'll contain 800 bushels of apples. The main storage area that you're looking at there, the floor space, that'll contain 800 bushels of squash. This is one of the coolers. As I said, 800 bushels of apples. That's all he had left from this spring. Next slide. And just wanted to give you a little idea of the quality of them. He gave me a bag to take home, and they were delicious. This has dramatically changed North Branch Farms operation. He was able to store squash, next slide, store squash all winter long, and distribute the apples. The primary customer for all those apples you saw, next slide, for all the apples you saw were schools.
I got ahead of us.
My
Sorry.
slides, Marshall. The primary customer for his apples this over the winter was the Farm to School program, the Drive for 25 program that Assemblywoman Jenny helped get started. That is actually a JLI class that Jay is speaking to there. His squash also went to, a lot of it went to the Farm to School program. So as Jay indicated, it dramatically changed his operation. What he's doing now, the facility allows him to better stage his deliveries and his participation in farmers markets and so on. He's able to pick the material, the produce the night before, store it in the coolers properly, and have it ready to go first thing on Wednesday mornings, for example. He has been extremely appreciative of this project, and like I said, it's dramatically changed how he does business now.
Very good.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Wasn't part of this program that other farmers would be able to use his
That was,
packaging facility so they could take advantage of being able to put it out in stores?
that was not part of our loan to him. There were discussions from Senator Ritchie's program about using Jay's facility. He is willing to allow farms to use it, but because of the new food safety standards, he has to make sure that they're in complete compliance with those standards. So that's.
So is he at capacity what he can package and market now?
No, he He's at the very beginning stages of that.
Yeah, I remember him talking about that, because if they were, what was that certification, Jay, that was the gap?
It's Food Safety Modernization Act,
Okay, right.
and they have to be GAP
Right,
certified.
Right, because if he uses their, if they're not, then he loses his certification.
Right, he would lose his certification, so that's the problem.
So if you really look at that scenario, it's not a good fit at all to consider down the road. For, I mean, if I were in his shoes, I would
Right.
not, just the risk of contamination
Right.
in your facility.
Yeah, no, it's too much of a risk, unless you are very familiar with another farm operation.
That's fine, I just thought we had heard that others may be able to take advantage of this.
There was some discussion about that, but the FSMA, regulations really took that for a different turn. But it was never part of our loan requirements.
That's fine, I move the resolution, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We have resolution 07.12/2008.01, resolution for authorizing a modification to the loan to J. Casimir, DBA North Branch Farms. We have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution carries.
We have one other matter in the committee, just again, housekeeping is a revised budget for this local development corp. As while I was going through the budgeting, there was some duplication, so there was about a $22,000 overstatement on the expense side, because some things were already rolled up into the marketing manufacturing program, specifically PTAC and the HAP grant numbers. So we're moving from, if I read this correctly, Lyle, about a $4,000 profit to a $50,000 profit.
Yeah, that's correct,
Make
yep.
sure I read
Yep.
it correctly. So there was a revised budget in the packet which the committee accepted to move to the full board for acceptance.
Is that a motion?
It can be. I make a motion to move.
You make a motion.
To accept the budget as presented.
The modified,
Revised, yeah.
revised budget.
Yes.
Second.
Questions? Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Marketing, Marshall. Oh, manufacturing, I'm sorry. Skipping it over you, Dave.
I think, well, I reported last time that we did receive a grant just over $14,000 for next year's safety training program, and we just last week concluded this year's training programs. And out of the couple dozen topics, we are offering to serve about 340 seats filled during the course of the year, so very good years.
Good.
Numbers there. We had, Manufacturing Council met last month. We had a meeting, focus meeting on the issue of one of the employers brought up some folks from the state apprenticeship program, the workplace, JCC and BOCES getting together to look at what we can do to foster greater use of apprenticeship programs. So I'm going to be sending out some information to our employers about what's available for, there's some technical assistance, tax credits, and some grants that are available to get apprenticeships set up. And then what they can do is if we get them set up, you get a number of them set up, say by the early in the year, there's, in addition to the on-the-job training aspect of that, there's some classroom content, what they call it, instruction, and we get BOCES and or JCC to offer classroom training that can serve multiple employers in that role. You probably also saw the announcement of JCC, the tech space that got funded downtown with the SUNY 2020 funding. That's going to be some advanced manufacturing equipment. We were actually just back when they were first putting that application to SUNY. We had to meet with that project, so we're glad to see that get funded because it'll help with some classroom instruction, but it'll also give help with entrepreneurs and developing opportunities there. And then the other thing we're working on is we're working with Fort Drum Regional Lighting Organization right now, and I've been getting the word out to our neighboring counties as well. Certainly, if there's enough interest, and it looks like there will be, and trying to arrange a tour early fall where we can do sort of where they can see the skills in action. There's a few hundred soldiers that leave Fort Drum each month, just out of retirement, transitioning out of the Army. There's a wide variety of skills. There's welders, there's mechanics, there's electricians, there's engineers, logistics, and folks. So we're going to do a tour of Fort Drum where the employers can see those skills in action, hear some presentations, meet with some of those soldiers, get a better appreciation of what they have, and try to have that workforce. The surveys that we've been doing in Fort drum. When they transition now, say there's 200 or 300 each month, about a third of those, they want to stay here, and they do want to stay here. About a third plan to go back home. The other third would stay here, but they're going to go where the jobs are. And if we can tap that to serve some of our employers' needs at the same point, we love our employers to be more competitive and keep some of that talent here.
Good. Questions for Dave? Thanks, Dave. Marshall?
Good morning, everyone. Just real quickly, I have the RFP out for our Jefferson County video that we had talked about last board meeting, out to 3 local media companies, and I have 2 quotes, and I'm waiting on a third. The third company wanted to look a little bit closer at it, and I'm going to give them that opportunity. We did receive, as I mentioned before, our Euromarket grant for 2018-2019. We re-engaged with Euromarket and are developing our plan moving forward. Web traffic is flat from June, July, but up slightly from last year. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Jay?
Just real quickly, in addition to the slides, we just held our Ag Development Council meeting this past Tuesday. At the meeting, I had Susan Villano from the New York Employer Resource Network. That's something that's being introduced here in Jefferson County. Traditionally, that service has been provided only to non-ag businesses. As far as we can tell, it's never been offered nationwide to our farms. An Employer Resource Network is basically a service where a success coach is provided to businesses on a share basis. They can buy a share of this person's time. That person will come into their business 4 hours a week and provide services to the employees to help the employees with more of the, call it, human nature side. It's not business related. It's an employee that's, you know, possibly having challenges with their finances. Maybe National Grid shut off their power, or they're having daycare issues. And you think about your employees and your turnover that you're experiencing in your businesses. You know, a lot of times, unfortunately, it's outside issues that are driving that employee's changing their job picture. Our farms experience that just as much as any other business, except our farms don't have a human resources person. It's usually the same guy that tells them what crops to plant that day or how to milk the cows, that also has to deal with the human resources issue. So when I started hearing about this ERN and these success coaches, I thought this is something our farms could certainly utilize. So we began working with the ERN, and we're trying to roll it out to our farms now here in Jefferson County to see if it's something they'd like to participate in. It's also being offered to our agribusinesses. I think it might have some real value to farms, but that's my opinion, and we're trying to find out if the farms would see value in that. You know, right now with unemployment rates dropping the way they are, we already had challenges of finding good employees and keeping them. It's going to get worse. Keeping those employees in those businesses is going to be absolutely critical going forward. And so I think, hopefully, this might be a little piece of a solution for not only non-ag businesses, but agriculture as well. So we'll keep you updated. Don't know for certain whether any farms will take advantage of it. It does cost money to participate. There is a grant available to help reduce some of those costs for the first year, but we'll see if we're successful in getting any farms interested in it and participating. Does anybody have any questions for me on anything to do with agriculture?
Feasibility study?
The meat processing feasibility study, Mike has the final copy in his hands right now. I have not seen it yet. He is taking a look at it to see what the results are. He's telling me that the consultants will be coming back into town to meet with us and present those results. So we'll be seeing hopefully something soon. Mike is telling me it's a mixed result. It's not all as rosy as we would like to hear, but he's saying it's not all negative either. So there's some possibilities there. But as soon as I have something more concrete to share with you, I will. I don't have anything yet, so.
Jay, the cost of that program, HR program, if a person takes advantage of it, say, 45 weeks out of the year for 4 hours a week, what, just go rough,
You have to buy in for a year.
what's that cost?
Right now, if you were to buy the full share, 4 hours a week, it would cost you, I believe this off the top of my head, so please quote me carefully. I believe it's about $4,000. The grant will help reduce some of that cost. Now, what we're talking about with our farms as a test of this program is to divide that share up between 2, 3, 4 farms, so that they have an opportunity to test it out with reduced risk. Susan Villano, the person that's heading it up, and I are actually looking for additional grant resources to extend that test period out, because as far as Susan's been able to determine, this has never been done nationwide for agriculture. So we're looking for funding opportunities where we can roll this out for a 2 or 3 year test period versus just the 1 year. The results that businesses get with this, from what we've seen, sometimes the return on investment has been 300, 400, 500%. That's pretty phenomenal. It's hard to believe, but she brought businesses up here that participate, and they confirm that this is an extremely valuable program for their businesses. The reason she's the person heading it up here is because she had a restaurant that she was working for. They brought in a success coach, and it made a tremendous difference in her business, and that's why she got into this, because she saw the value in it.
I'd say that's very cost effective.
If you lose, right now, the estimated cost, if you lose an employee here in New York State, it's going to cost you about $5,000 to replace them. So if you spend $4,000 on a share of this program, and it saves you 2 or 3 employees, you've paid for it.
I think if I may, Ed, I think as you've heard us, staff talk about the issues relating to training and maintaining employees and so on in Northern New York are really becoming a critical issue. And the extent to which we go to try to protect those employees is what Jay is just describing. But really, it's a systemic issue. It's one that all of us in the community, and that includes local governments, that includes IDAs and LDCs and everyone else, needs to get our arms around for the future. If there is one issue that seems to set communities apart when trying to attract, is the level of the skills and the availability of labor. So we've got to do a better job here to maintain the quality of the people that are getting out of our high schools. Unfortunately, many are leaving. We've seen that for years now, but we've got to find a way to stem that tide and get these people educated. And I think someone, we talked to Cheryl Mayforth and others about this, we've got to get our arms around this. It's a serious problem.
Just watched a special on a plant being built in, I think, Madison, Wisconsin, 12,000 jobs, and they're like 10,000 employees short. They can't find the people, they don't have the people to put in the jobs.
It's one of the first questions that we face when we talk to a company or respond to their request for information. It's one of the first questions that we are asked is about our workforce. So it's one of the reasons why we're doing things like helping introduce this ERN program. It's one of the things, it's one of the reasons why we're so actively engaged with JCC and BOCES to try to help them in our side of things to increase their agricultural programming, so that we can say to those potential businesses we're trying to recruit, here's what we're doing to address workforce issues. And it's absolutely critical. We've got to be able to show them, here's what we're doing, to avoid exactly what you just said, Paul.
Yeah, but in your field, you gotta get rid of the stigmatism that working on a farm is not a good career for children.
I know.
You know, I understand it, welders and all that stuff, but when you talk to agriculture and you hear people talk about, non-citizen farm workers,
Right.
is that the correct term? We don't understand the reason why is we aren't raising people
Right.
through our system to think working on a farm is a good job.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Did you talk to local manufacturer, and they'll tell you, they get somebody that has some farm experience, they're a keeper even anywhere, because they gotta
Both
go
my
to work
kids
every day.
started out on the neighbor's farm.
Yeah, my son is on your neighbor's farm today.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell them to fire.
You go right ahead, you do that.
I don't think they would, they're a good group to work with.
Yeah, they are.
Except in the milk room.
But it is part of the challenge, is that whole stigmatism, and we work on that as well. It's why we do a radio show. It's why we do all of the public outreach efforts through this office, to try and change people's opinion of what agriculture is, and to show them the reality versus that old stigmatism.
Probably the best single decision they made was to start out on a farm.
Yep, yep, I agree.
But those opportunities are nowhere near where the opportunities for exposure
Right.
are nowhere near where they are because of the number of farms, you know, they aren't there. They're all around us before now, and it's gonna be the trend in the future. It's gonna be the ones left standing are gonna be the large farms.
You're right.
But my comment, that comes back to jobs, and this plant in Wisconsin that's 10,000 workers short. And the reality is, to me, it demonstrates how important this immigration issue is in this country right now. Because there isn't many major industries through this, all regions of this country would be shut down tomorrow if they didn't have access to migrant workers.
Right.
Construction field, you go south, you go west, roofers, any housing developments being built around, I'll guarantee you half those workers on that site are immigrants, right? So whether it's agriculture, whether it's construction, the trades, and most all those people love that workforce because they show up, they're more consistent, and
They want the jobs.
they can't function without them.
Right.
And here we are in the United States with a 3.5%, 4%, argue 5% unemployment. That's as good as it's ever gonna get, really, when you look at the trends. So there's nowhere to go to find more workers. So
Yeah.
as we look at job development and recruiting businesses and even managing our own, it's a way of life for us that 10 years ago, we weren't dealing with. But when you look at the dynamics.
Yeah.
It's my hope at our retreat coming up in August, this is one of the areas that we would spend a little time on, because we're taking steps to try to improve the situation, but frankly, this organization, our organizations, can't do it by ourselves. We've got to find a better way to partner with others, and we're trying to reach out, as Jay says, to BOCES and the college on a regular basis, but we need something else. We need a more cohesive plan for the community, and I hope perhaps we'll spend a few minutes trying to figure out what that might be. You know, it's an absolutely critical problem you've got to solve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shay. Greg, what do you have for us today?
Okay, I put together a read-ahead package, and I'm not sure, has everybody seen this, or has this gone out?
Yes.
It has, okay.
No, well, I take that back. Peggy's not here to confirm that, so maybe it's, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Greg?
All right, no problem. I'll just run through it quickly. Most of it's the kind of background stuff we talked about. It is intentionally kept relatively general. The idea here is to provide some background that sort of shapes our thinking. And I tried to address the areas that I thought were most relevant to our current economic situation. So agriculture, manufacturing, Fort Drum, general assessment of employment. On the front page, I asked 4 questions, and I'm asking people if you could, they're very general, high-level questions about the organization, asking if you could just email me your answers to those questions. And that's gonna help me understand to what degree is there common thinking and to what degree is there disagreements about general issues. So the questions, the first one asks about overall goals for the organization and measures. I remember years ago in front of the predecessor board of this board suggesting that perhaps jobs were not the only measure of our success or our impact. And everybody kind of looked at me like I was from another world and said, look, we're the Jefferson County Job Development Corporation. What else would there be? So I was just quiet after that.
Well, that's done, you talk now.
Okay. So, but I think as we set goals for this organization, we also need to ask ourselves how we will measure those. And I would suggest that maybe broader thinking could help us there. There are other measures that we should use in addition to the ones we're using now. Second question is about priorities that the staff could focus on and the board itself to reach those goals. We do a lot of things in this organization. You know, when you listen to the briefings we've just had, the presentations, we're safety training and all kinds of things, some of which they're really obviously important and valuable to the community in various ways. If we didn't do them, someone else would have to. But are there things, you know, I guess I'm looking for some strategic priorities that the board could then give to staff and ask them how to go forward on that. Third question is just about economic sectors or general opportunities that you think are promising as principal targets. No clue what I'm gonna get, but somebody may have a really, really good idea that will come forward from that. There may be something that you know, from your own perspective, you think would be a good priority, good opportunity. And then the last question is about the organization and its role with the larger political and public life. I think, just as Don was saying, and if we've talked about, the organization doesn't operate in a vacuum. And we have choices about how we interact with the public, how we interact with the, you know, with government at various levels, et cetera. Those choices, I suspect, come down to a spectrum of leadership versus followership. There are risks as well as opportunities associated with taking a strong public leadership position on something. So, you know, my perception is the board may want to spend a little time picking our fights rather than doing that, helping staff understand what fights we'd like to pick. So as soon as this goes out, read through the materials. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask me. I deliberately did not stick in lots and lots of graphs and charts and so forth. That usually makes people in July tend to read something else. If there are not enough charts and graphs in your life, however, just let me know and I'll send you the background information on any of my broad statements here. So as soon as I can get everybody's responses or a reasonable number of responses, I'm gonna collate those, decide what other things I need to gather up for the August thing. And my goal for that would be to come out with a strategic direction. How does this organization want to position itself for the future? And what are the things we think we should spend most of our time focusing on?
Everybody knows the August session is at the RIF camp. We're trying to get a updated map on exactly how to get there. Good luck with that. It's up 81 toward the bridge, if anybody's not familiar with it. We'll try to do as much as we can to make sure that you can find your way. Not sure about signage. We may even stick signs up there. I'm not too sure.
If you hit the Canadian border, you've gone too far.
Yes, exactly right. If they start saying or A, then you've gone too. You should have that information too, sure.
I think going through that parking lot area, just use some cones with a sign on it. Little red cones, drop 3 or 4. Just to roll back there.
Yeah.
So that meeting is right now, the August meeting is what day?
August 2nd.
It's our regular board
Right,
meeting.
so I mean, we're in the middle of July now. We need to get this.
Yeah, as quickly as you could, I appreciate it.
Kind of short turnover there.
It'll be out today. I apologize. I thought it had gone out yesterday when it came in, but
Okay. Thanks, Greg. Sounds to me you've been doing a lot of work on it.
Sounds to me he's gonna have to be busy the next week. In the middle of summer.
no grass.
That's okay, happy to help.
Okay, we have resolution number 0712-2008.02. It's a resolution to adopt records retention and disposition schedule. I believe that's M1,
Yes.
MI1, MI1.
Is this new or just an updating of it?
We're essentially updating what we have now.
We have a record.
We do have a
retention,
record,
Yeah.
And this is updating what we've had to current.
What's going on all over the years is our accounting firms have provided a list of documents based on their experience, and we followed that basically to the letter. Now the state has stepped in and said, wait a minute, you guys have got to be more universal. And so they've provided this MI1. Record retention, particularly in this organization, is very, very important as we provide loans and finance and all that kind of stuff. Our record retention room is out back, and we have been trying to upgrade that. Joy and Peggy have been working hard on it. And Joy, I'd like to have you just give us 2 seconds worth of background from your perspective about what this means.
The New York State Archives actually is the ones that recommend that we have this schedule. And if we have this schedule and we have everything in place, and along with appointing a records management officer, which would be Peggy because she's so good at it.
She's not here, so she.
Yeah, she missed this meeting. We would be able to apply for the grants to be able to upgrade our facility in the back, and also possibly have people come in and work on scanning, getting things into, barcoding, electronic records management and that sort of thing. And the grants, I believe, are up to like $150,000 too. And because of all of our agencies work together, and basically we have kind of combined records, although we have them separated, we can do a combined grant request. And she says, because we've never done a grant request, we would probably be a good applicant, so.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule we have now is acceptable for what, to
Yeah.
qualify for the grants, we have to have their schedule. And
Yeah.
and as Joyce said, the whole series, we can inventory, then we can organize, and scan,
Mhm.
everything organized.
been through it a lot. I move the resolution, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
One quick question I have. Going forward in the future, this agency has so many documentations, communications, legal documents, loan documents. Moving forward and say we get a grant and we develop the area, transfer a lot of this to digital, do we always still have to maintain every paper copy going into the future, the original sources are? Will you end
I
up
don't-
purging a lot of that material back
Yes,
there?
yes. The MI1 tells us, you know, when we can destroy things, and in fact, sometimes it's good to make sure it's, you know, we get rid of it so it's not in the way or
From my
taking up space or,
From my perspective, Ed, was adhering to the policy, we probably are maintaining more records than we need to.
Probably.
Would be my guess.
yeah.
And I remember at the county, one of the concerns about going to digitization is technology. And let's say you blow it onto a CD, 30 years from now, the CDs still be readable in technologies of then. So I don't think it's clear.
Yeah,
yet
nobody
whether-
uses CDs anymore, so.
I don't think it's clear yet whether we can completely digitize, like in the real property office, we scan every document we have. But then the record retention officer is required to still keep some.
Mhm.
So you may have a digital image just for recovery of records or the article, or you just for that purpose to save so much time by recovering it instead of going through boxes and boxes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and actually Peggy and Joy are going to a workshop later this month on managing scanned electronic records too, so.
So that's a good question that we can bring up.
As a practical matter, Ed, often we are foiled, Freedom of Information Act. And we just went through one that were 377 pages of material. But it all has to be excerpt from the files, and it's never typically in one spot. It's scattered amongst a variety of things. This will help us at least manage that responsibility we hold in a better way. So it's just one practical example of how it works. It's a good thing.
Very good. On the resolution, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. And we have resolution 07-12-2018-03. It's a resolution to appoint a records management officer. And as she is not here, it's a good time to appoint her.
I move the resolution.
She has accepted that responsibility.
Yeah, she knew it was
Don, is
coming.
there any requirement,
Well, sort of.
is there any requirement to have two, in case someone is out?
Well, Joy is often the backup on almost all of this stuff, whether official or not. So if Peggy is out, we can typically ask Joy, she'll know where we are, what's required. And I think because both Joy and Peggy have been going through this right from the beginning, Joy will be as much up to speed on all of this as Peggy probably. We just need to designate one person to take that on.
Just one quick question, is this different than the Freedom of Information Officer?
Yes,
Yes, it would be.
yes.
Okay.
And you can have it be one and the same, but they're two separate things.
Two separate entities.
Yes.
On the resolution, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Counselor, do you have anything for? Don, do you have anything that's in the pipeline or anything you wanna
Well,
bring up to?
actually, Mr. Chairman, we have several things going on right now. I would suggest many of them are relative to the IDA, so I'm not sure at this point how much I want to, I can reveal to the board about what is going on, but we have amongst those issues we're dealing with, the Carthage Specialty Paper, re-energy, the meat processing facility, highlight striping, the ag park, the air park. We have the legal some other projects, again, largely going through the IDA. But there are several of these things that are in the works, and we're trying to put together a meaningful dialogue on those things and move the ball down the road, trying to get these things prepared for public distribution. And that's basically what's going on right now. As all of you know, and many of you have been on this board for a long time, there gets to be a point where we can reveal all this in a public forum, but until that time, it's very difficult for us to do that because there's things like property acquisition and commitments from various and sundry people that we need to try to get exposure. And so we're working hard to try to do that, and I know some of you would like more information that about things that we're working on, and I respect it. I understand exactly where you're coming from. If I were in your shoes, I would ask the same, but I ask your indulgence as we try to work through this. The only secrets are just to try to move the ball down the road to a point where we can present them to you with some reasonable chance of success. We have one project which is probably the largest we've been working on since Fort Drum. That is taking a lot of time and effort, but because it has so many moving parts, I'm reluctant to start into that, because once I do, then it's probably not going to help the project along. So I'm, blame me, I'm the guy that tries to make the decision as to whether I present this to you at some point in time, or withhold the information until we get to the point where we feel comfortable. So if you have an argument about that or a disagreement with that, feel free to hold me accountable, because I'm the guy. Staff looks to me for, my guidance, so don't blame them. But I would also say to you, and I think this is key, although I can't talk about it, not that I don't like Marcus, he's a nice guy, but I can't talk about that stuff in front of him. But if any of you want to spend time individually getting updated as to what I think is going on and so on, I'll be very happy to do that. And you don't have to do it here, I'll come to you. I mean, we need and want your active enthusiasm. And so, again, I take blame for whatever it is that's of great concern to you. And if you want me to do it differently, I think that's part of what Greg is going to try to zero in on, as to how we do some of this stuff.
I would say though, those items that you just mentioned that are spinning plates, so to speak, I don't think this board is, since I've been on it, has had more on its plate, potentially, right now, and what's coming down the pike with even this re-energy issue, with what the state is doing. I know there's never been a fuller plate than right now. It's like, it's major, I think it's major. So if there's some communications or some things get misperceived through media versus what we know, I think we better prepare ourselves for that and grant each other a little bit of leeway as we conduct our business, because your plate, this staff's plate, is so full of things projects.
Well, it used to be you deal with one project and it would be kind of isolated on that project, but now you deal with one project and the implications are significant in so many different areas. I didn't mention Apex wind project, and there are several others that you already know about. All of those things are on the plate. We're working on them 24/7, best our ability. But that said, I fully understand your difficulty in trying to assess what we're doing, not knowing completely what we're doing. I get that, and if I were in your shoes, and had been, by the way, in your shoes, I would understand the concern. So feel free to take advantage of us to sit down, any one of us. You don't have to talk to me, Dave, Joy, if you want to, anybody, Lyle, and tell us what you'd like to see and how better to do it.
Well, I think this comes because of the issues I raised. I mean, we've talked about it before, there's gotta be a better way to make us aware when things start. And it's always that system of, one, building a consensus in the organization to move forward with the project. You know, how, on the issue at hand is, how hard would it be for staff to make 3 phone calls? Listen, this has come up, we're gonna be working on it, we want you to know, we'll keep you informed going forward. Most of my issue is that you hear about this from other people instead of hearing it from here. And I hate to see a project, let's assume a project came up that the majority of this board didn't want to support, and you've invested a lot of time and effort into it, but you've just spun your wheels for no reason. So a quick phone call, that's not in writing, that's the type of stuff that I think we need to work for. And work towards and keeping the board informed. I don't have to know all the little details on the issue I work up. I have concerns about where we are on certain projects. Is there a stalking horse that have been approved yet for Carthage?
Not yet, but we believe it's close. We believe the leading candidates for that position spent most of yesterday here. We can't anticipate what the court is going to do, but on the other hand, we can't wait till the last minute either while we try to compile this information, so we're in a position when the courts move, because the company's in jeopardy, we've got to be able to move quickly. So, and to Paul's point, I mean, we used to, for example, I sent out, probably those of you who have been on the board for a long time, including I used to send out emails to the point where I was accused by the chairman of flooding everybody with emails. But we were able to
Shut
communicate.
things down one time.
But then I was accused of trying to run the organization via emails, and I was told to stop that. So,
It's one thing to ask for a position, it's a different thing to say, hey, this is going on. And that was my big issue, is that when we take on a huge project, just let us know what's going on, so when we hear about it from other sources, you're not sitting there going, huh? I haven't heard that.
And I think, I'm sorry, I think to add to what Paul's saying, because some of us are on other boards and other organizations that may be involved at some point, and it might be awkward if
you're sitting on this
we're,
board.
yeah, and I think one that's been in question is a board that I sit on, and, you know, if I was asked about that, I'd be like, what? And what's that all about? So it might make us look, I don't wanna say less professional, but less knowledgeable about something. So I get what he's saying, and because, I mean, I'm on one of the college boards and on the county planning. I mean, there's different organizations that could have ties to these projects. So I think what he's saying is, I get that, and I think if there's a point, at some point where you think you can at least say, this is nothing definite, just a heads up, and at least then we would know. And if somebody questioned us, then at least we could say, well, it's not at the point where we can comment on it at this time, or something like that.
There you go, Greg.
Yeah.
I've been taking
I
notes.
get what Lisa's saying, but
Yeah.
this is exactly the conundrum we're working in. We have 4 political jurisdictions we're working with right now. None of those have revealed publicly to their boards where we are on this project. Why? Because if they did, it could impact how the project proceeds, and it could kill it. And so we all have this understanding where we need to inform our boards, and yet if we do so, we have to do it publicly. If we do it publicly, then it could put the whole thing in jeopardy. And
I'd add one thing to kind of what you're saying, similar. The major beef that I have is involvement is fine, but involvement early and often sometimes gives the appearance of support by this board. And when this board has had no information, not been involved to take an action, perception-wise, you could be talking about a sick ant. And if you're meeting about a project, it could be perceived by other boards and or the newspaper or whomever that there's full support. And that's where things get ahead of us. And when things get ahead of us, and I know you're trying to control information for the purposes that you just described, it's just sometimes involvement can be perceived as support, and they're two totally different things. And that's why there's a board here to take action and discuss and be diligent about facts and then take action. And that's just, it's happened 2 or 3 times, where things get shoved on the board meeting, the day of a meeting, and get no information, and we have to take action that day, and sometimes it appears as though the vote's already been taken. Here, this is a formality. And that's just my opinion, and I hate to say it that way, but I'm gonna say it more when we meet, and it's happened in my short time on the board twice.
I sure.
And I'm not looking for an apology, I'm just making my,
No,
my statement of
I'm trying to
it's
get,
a reflection on all of us.
if you guys can give me some guidance as to how better to do this, then please, we're not trying to withhold information. We're just trying to keep it contained so that it doesn't negatively impact what we're trying to do. And individually, I know this guy, for example, sat down a couple of months ago and spent an hour and a half out here going through some of the stuff we're going on and get perhaps a little better understanding. And honest to God, I'm willing to come to your offices, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, given the fact that we have time constraints on all of this, so that we don't end up doing what you just described, Rob, which is, that's not comfortable for us either.
No.
Because we know you have not had time to do a thorough review of this, and that's not good either.
Because it'd be rather embarrassing for you and Dave, or Marshall or Jay involved, all of a sudden you bring a project to the board, and like Paul
You say
said,
no.
5 people say, this is really a waste of our time, and we all look like fools, I mean, frankly.
Look at how upset Mr. Lundy was the day that we voted, the first day that the Ag Park ended up on our agenda and it got tabled. He clearly was upset, but
Wait,
there
there
was.
was perception of action, that's my point. There was a different perception on his part of the
I mean,
action that
ultimately,
would have been taken. And then
that
there's
was an
reality.
unfortunate situation that if there was some consensus building that, listen, this has been worked on, it's coming forward, if you have questions, give me a call. None of that occurred, and it was a big change in operations, because we've never entered into that type of agreement before, as far as I know. So, that's the type of.
We're talking about more IDA stuff than LTC.
Well, it's economic development.
Sorry.
It's economic development,
That we're not at the right meeting.
That's important for us. I don't want to end up in a combative role as a staff member. That's the silliest thing in the world. I work for you guys.
Hey,
you
we
pull
all
the
work
trigger.
together.
All you gotta do is say, hey, you're done, buddy, you're gone. Because I get that. It's just that I'm trying to do what I perceive to be in the best interest of these projects. And there may not be. There may be a better way to do that. And if we can figure that out, I'm all for it.
Greg's made a lot of notes here.
Yeah, it's,
I would move we adjourn and get into the right meeting first. Unless there's other business, I would offer a motion to adjourn the LDC meeting.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.